Hi, my name is Jack, and this is Bible with Jack. Today we're going to be reading Genesis chapter 30. When Rachel saw that she bore Jacob no children, she envied her sister. She said to Jacob, "Give me children, or I shall die." Jacob anger was kindled against Rachel, and he said, "Am I in the place of God, who has withheld you from the fruit of the womb?" Then she said, "Here's my servant Bilhah. Go into her so that she may give birth on my behalf, that even I may have children through her." So she gave him her servant Bilhah as a wife, and Jacob went into her. And Bilhah conceived and bore Jacob a son. Then Rachel said, "God has judged me and has also heard my voice and gave me a son." Therefore she called his name Dan. Rachel's servant Bilhah conceived again and bore Jacob a second son. Then Rachel said, "With mighty wrestling I have wrestled with my sister and prevailed." So she called his name Naphtali. When Leah saw that she had ceased bearing children, she took her servant Zilpah and gave her to Jacob as a wife. Then Leah's servant Zilpah bore Jacob a son, and Leah said, "Good fortune has come." So she called his name Gad. Leah's servant Zilpah bore Jacob a second son, and Leah said, "Happy am I, for women have called me happy." So she called his name Asher. In the days of wheat harvest, Reuben went and found mandrake in the field and brought them to his mother Leah. Then Rachel said to Leah, "Please give me some of your son's mandrakes." But she said to her, "Is it a small matter that you have taken away my husband? Would you take away my son's mandrake also?" Rachel said, "Then he may lie with you tonight in exchange for your son's mandrake." When Jacob came from the field in the evening, Leah went out to meet him and said, "You must come into me, for I have hired you with my son's mandrake." So he lay with her that night, and God listened to Leah, and she conceived and bore Jacob a fifth son. Leah said, "God has given me my wage because I gave my servant to my husband." So she called his name Issachar. And Leah conceived again, and she bore Jacob a sixth son. When Leah said, "God has endowed me with good endowment, now my son will honor me, and my husband will honor me, because I have bore him 6 sons." So she called his name Zebulun. After she bore a daughter and called her name Dinah, God remembered Rachel, and God listened to her and opened her womb. She conceived and bore a son. "God has taken away my reproach." And she called his name Joseph, saying, "May the Lord add to me another son." As soon as Rachel had bore Joseph, Jacob said to Laban, "Send me away that I may go on my own home country. Give me my wives and my children for whom I served you, that I may go, for you know the service I have given you." But Laban said to him, "If I found favor in your sight, I have learned by divination that the Lord has blessed you because of you. Name your wage, and I will give it." Jacob said to him, "You yourself know how I have served you, and how your livestock has fared with me. For you had little before I came, and has increased abundantly, and the Lord has blessed you wherever I turn. But now when I shall provide for my own household also." He said, "What shall I give you?" Jacob said, "You shall not give me anything, if you will do this for me. I will again pasture your flock and keep it. Let me pass through it all your flock today, removing it from every speck and spotted sheep, and every black lamb, and the spotted and the speckled among the goat, and they shall be my wage. So my honesty will answer for me later, when you come to look into my wage with you. Every one that is not speckled and spotted among the goat, the black among the lamb, if found with me, shall be counted stolen." Laban said, "Good, let it be as you said." But that day Laban removed the male goat that were striped and spotted, and all the female goat that was speckled and spotted, every one that had white on it, and every lamb that was black, and put them in charge of his son. And he set a distance of 3 days' journey between him and Jacob pastured the rest of Laban's flock. Then Jacob took fresh sticks of poplar and almond and plane trees, and peeled white streaks on them, exposing the white of the stick. He set the stick that he had peeled in front of the flock in the troughs, that is, the watering place, where the flock came to drink. And since they were bred when they came to drink, the flock bred in front of the sticks, so that the flock brought forth striped and speckled and spotted. And Jacob separated the lamb and set the faces of the flock towards the striped and all the black and the flock of Laban. He put his own drove apart and did not put them with Laban's flock. Whenever the strong of the flock were bred, Jacob would lay the stick in the thorough before the eyes of the flock, that they may breed among the stick. But for the feeble of the flock he would not lay them there. The feeble would be Laban's, and the stronger is Jacob. Thus the man increased greatly and had a large flock, female servant, male servant, and camel and donkey. This chapter starts off with something very interesting. We have two daughters here, or two wives here, fighting for the love of their husband. And it's interesting because they gave their servant to him as wives. So Jacob would have 4 wives in total. In the New Testament, it says an adulteress will not inherit the kingdom. But if they're already wives, they're not really adulterers, right? And I don't recall, I don't know, it's just a thought while I was reading this. I don't recall anywhere it says you shouldn't have more than one wife, but it does imply that you should only have one. Something to think about. I'm not sure either. It's very interesting that it's allowed here in the Old Testament and not seen as a problem. I guess you can say Jacob wasn't an adulteress because they were his wife after all. Another interesting thing is Leah had no love but bore him children, whereas Rachel had all the love but didn't really bore him any children. And when Joseph was born, it triggered Jacob to wanting to go back home. It's like a foreshadowing of Israel returning back home. And one last thing I'd like to note is that Jacob used the stick as his plan to increase his flocks. But later on in the next chapter, we find that Jacob actually says it wasn't the stick, it was actually God who did it. And one last thing is Jacob left to Laban by deceiving his brother and deceiving in deceit, but then he got that in return where Laban returned it by deceiving him with the daughters and the flocks. Very interesting how things turned around. I think that's all I have for today. I'll see you next time for Genesis chapter 31.